In this video, we're going to look at how you actually run a session. We're going to take a look at what the learner sees and compare that to the instructor view. We're going to look at starting the session, and then we are going to explore some of the communication tools that Handle has. Then we're going to look at launching a micro session, and then we're going to take a dive into study groups. Finally, we'll explore the raised hand feature and look at how to respond to raised hands. Okay, so you're probably familiar with the instructor view that you can see here now, but let's take a look at what the learner actually sees. So I've got two learner accounts set up now, and you can see this is their view for the classroom closed state. And the thing to point out here is that they can see when the next session starts. And if you remember, we set that up in our classroom dashboard. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is actually open up the session, and then we'll take a look at how things change for the learner. So to open the session, I need to pick a closing time of the session. So I'm going to imagine that this session closes at 4 p.m. and I'm going to hit the start session button. So things look pretty similar for me here as an instructor. You'll notice there's a few more buttons that have appeared, and I'll talk about those shortly. For a learner, the view changes quite a lot. So they can now access the classroom notes. So these were what we set up earlier in the dashboard, and you can see them here. And they can see any upcoming micro sessions. Now, the timings for this micro session are obviously a little bit off, and that's because I had planned on this class being at 9 o'clock in the morning, but now it's started at 3 p.m. So it's a little bit different. Okay, so this is the learner view so far. Let's take a look at some of the communication tools. So you'll find these in the communication and notes tab. So I'm just going to close up this classroom elements one for the moment. So the first thing we should look at is how to message the entire classroom. So this will send out a message to both the learners and all of the instructors. So I'm going to hit this and we get a dialog box, and I'm going to just send a message. I'll say hi to everybody. The class is about to start. That will do. So I'll send that over, and what the learners see is this message flash up, which they can then dismiss. Okay. We also have a second option. We can message just the instructors. So it's a similar mechanism, but this one is just for sending messages to coordinate with each other, or to deal with maybe technical problems that are coming up and so on. So I'll just send let's go and hit continue. One final thing that is there as a communication tool is the staff room. This is a video call that is only for the instructors, and they can go to this at any time to have a private chat with each other. So I'm just going to hit the button and show you what happens. This opens up a video call. Of course, I'm the only instructor on the session right now, so I just see me, but there might be multiple instructors who could meet here. So one thing that we might do is send a message to the instructors saying, let's meet in the staff room now, and then go to the staff room. Okay, so those are the communication tools. Now our class has started. Let's look at how we start the micro session. So we've only got one micro session set up at the moment. And we can see that this one we've set up as a compulsory session. This means that all students are going to be forced into the call no matter what else they're doing. Because I'm the lead instructor, I've got a button that says launch. None of the other instructors will have that. I just want to show you, to remind you that you can change who the lead instructor is for a micro session simply by using this drop-down list. But I'm going to leave things as is for the moment. Okay, so let's launch this micro session and see what happens. So I hit the launch button. I get a confirm box. Because this is a compulsory session, it's just warning me that all the learners are going to be taken out of any other activities that they're doing right now. but I'm okay with that. So I'm going to hit continue. And you can see that the call is opened. I'll just show you what the learners see. Oh, it was a bit quick, but they basically see a message that tells them that they're going to be taken into this call. And you can see that they have been dragged into the call as well. Now, I'll just mute myself so that I don't get that nasty echo. So this is the instructor view that you see. You see it's opened in a separate tab. My dashboard is still here, but this is a separate tab, and I can see my followers listed down the left hand side, and whichever instructors are also on the call are there. Now when I'm done as the lead instructor, I can just end the micro session for everybody. If I leave, it will continue running, but it won't have ended. But in this case, I want to end the micro session, so I'm just going to press the end button, and that will terminate the micro session for the learners as well. You can see it's got a tick on it because it's now completed, and you'll also notice on the learner view that the micro session has disappeared altogether because it's now finished. So that just keeps their feed looking quite simple. Okay, so that's the basics of micro sessions. We could also make a micro session on the fly. So imagine that the students are working away in the class and some kind of problem comes up, and we just want to deal with it for those students who are struggling. So I'm going to create a micro session for that purpose. This is going to start at, well, it's 3 o'clock now. Let's just start it in 5 minutes. So 3:06. I'm not going to start it myself. I think I'm going to leave this one for Jess. The session is going to cover people who are struggling with the exercise. It's not going to be a compulsory session. I don't imagine that many people going, so I'm going to allow people to unmute in this case. I'm going to hit continue. So you can see that the session's up there for the instructor view, as you can see. And I'll show you what the learners see. So they see that session appear on their feed, and they can now choose to follow the session. So maybe both of these learners are going to follow the session, and I'll show you what the instructor sees. They can see 2 followers. They can even look at who they are. And if I was the lead instructor, I would also have the ability to launch that session, and the students would be able to join it. Okay, let's now take a look at study groups. So we've already created 2 study groups, 3 study groups, I should say, and they're all in pause state. That means that the learners can't yet see them on their feed. So you'll see that they're not apparent on their feed. If we reset these study groups, the learners are going to be able to see them and follow them and launch them. So let's do that. I have to reset each one, and I'll just show you what the learner sees. They now see all of these 3 study groups. What I'm going to do is I'm going to follow the one on web technologies, and you'll see it's gone to the top of my learner feed here. And for this second learner, I'm going to do exactly the same thing. I'm going to follow it. And you'll now see that because there's 2 learners there, they get the option now to launch their study group. So this is going to launch a video call between them. So I'm going to hit continue. And you'll see that both learners end up in a video call together. Again, I'm going to need to just do some muting just to prevent nasty echoes. Let me show you what the instructor now sees for that study group. So you'll see here, this is the live study group. You can see the camera is showing that the call is going on. And you can see that it shows that there are 2 learners calling on it and that there are 2 followers. So it might be that some students have followed this study group, but they haven't actually joined the call. So that's why there's this distinction. Okay, so maybe I want to drop in on this study group and check how the learners are getting on, or deal with some kind of issue that they're having. And so I've got a join button here. And once I hit this, this just joins me into a call with these learners. So I'm going to do that now. And you can see that I've joined the call as well. Again, I'll mute myself, otherwise we get nasty echoes. And I can see the names of the learners here, and I can see myself. If another instructor wanted to join this call, they could also join along as well. Maybe if I was finding it difficult to help them, I would send an instructor message asking them to come to this particular study group. Okay, so when I'm done with these learners, I can leave the study group call. That doesn't end the call for them, it just causes me to leave. So if you look at the learner views, they're still there in the study group. Okay, so we unpaused study groups, but we can also pause them. So say we want to do another activity and we don't want those study groups to continue for the moment, I can hit this pause button. It will close the call or any calls that are ongoing, but also remove the study group from the learner's view. So I'm going to do this now. And you can see that the web technology study group is in a pause state. And also you can see that the call has ended from the learner views and they no longer see that study group in their feed. Okay, the other thing, like before, as an instructor, I can create study groups on the fly. So maybe there's something else that I think that everybody should, maybe wants to discuss. And I can press the create study group button and I can say for discussing whatever the topic is. So exciting topic. And I will add that to my study groups. So there it is. And you can see now that there it has appeared on the learner's feed as well. Okay, I'm going to show you one more feature in this video, and that is raised hands. I sometimes call them questions on the instructor side. So I'm going to hit this button, and what this toggle does is it enables questions for learners. So looking at this learner view, you can now see they've got an extra button called raise a hand. And what they can do is they can press this button and it opens this dialog which allows them to ask a question or request feedback. I'm going to show you the options here. So they can say that they're stuck, that they're curious because they want to learn something else, they need feedback on their work, or they've got this option, it's personal. It's personal is for asking a question that they don't want shared with anybody else. I'm going to stick with I'm stuck. I'm going to make a pretend exercise up in my head. So I'm going to say I'm stuck on the exercise. Specifically, I'm struggling with the second part. And I'll submit my raised hand. Now, what the instructor sees is that question appear here with the learner name. These raised hands will appear in an ordered queue in this column here so that they can work their way through the raised hands in an ordered way. Now, this question, because it wasn't a personal question, will appear on other learners' feeds as well. So you can see that this other learner can also see the question. And if they think, well, I'm also stuck on the exercise and I'm also struggling with the second part, they can go, well, I'll follow this question. And what that means is that when the instructor calls back for this raised hand, both learners will get the video call. And so the instructor will be able to answer the question for both of them. So I'm going to show you how that works now. We just hit the call button on the raised hand and it opens up a video call with the learners there. What the learners see is a dialogue and they're automatically brought onto that call. What I'll do again is I'll mute myself so that we don't get nasty echoes. And I might need to mute myself here as well. There we go. So we've stopped the echoes. So now we're all on a call together. You can imagine that I, as the instructor, are helping out these two learners. And when I've solved their problem, I can hit the solved button. Now, say, for example, I was an assistant instructor and I was having trouble helping them. I can, instead of hitting the solved button, I can hit the flagged button, and that will escalate that raised hand for the classroom convener, who can then hit the call button and try and help the students instead. But I'm going to imagine now that I've managed to help these two learners, and I'm going to hit the solved button. And once I have done that, that ends the call with everybody, and you can see that it appears with a tick here as a solved question. The learners can still see their question as well, but it's now also ticked as solved and goes to the bottom of their feed. So that is all the features for now, and gives you a basic idea of how to run a session in Handle. What I'll do in the next video is take a deeper dive with study groups and show you some of the extra features there.